to introduce to you our keynote speaker for the morning. But before I do that, I do have a question for everybody. I can tell there's a great buzz in this room, first of all. And it's not the microphone, okay? There's a great energy here. And I have a question. Do we have any San Diego State Aztec fans or alumni in the room? I see, I'm hearing a lot of them. You're going to be in for a thrill because our keynote presenter is a proud alumni of San Diego State University. He earned his bachelor's in business from there. He went on to earn a master's in education from Harvard University. But I'm telling you, right here, right now, this man is passionate. He's passionate about making a difference in his community. Where his feet are, that's where he is. He aspires to make a difference in whatever he chooses to do. He has helped over 10,000 at-risk youth earn their graduate degrees from university. He's an educator. He works to transform antiquated systems and the inequities that stem from injustice. He's a firm believer that the right words said to the right people at the right time will change the trajectory of their entire life. He now dedicates his life to using words to inspire change at every level, to every person possible. And it is to that point I would like to invite our keynote speaker for the morning, Mr. Jordan Harrison, to the stage. Jordan.
There's a vision you have that the world needs. A pain you see that your job pays you just enough to oversee. A desire just weak enough that you get a little bit more than enough sleep. A passion and a yearning. But you become better at running your mouth and you get at running your hands. Now, this might not be the inspirational message you were thinking of, but I'm here to remind you that the world needs you now. We're in a drought of vision and mission, and that pain, passion, desire, and focus needs your attention and your work. The tomorrow eyes, one day I, wouldn't it be nice if yes? It would be nice if you started. See, someone's breakthrough is contingent on your follow-through, and I'm not here to guilt trip you into your purpose, but if that's what it takes, I'll gladly untie your shoe, hoping that you trip and fall so hard into your purpose that you never get up. That you look up at the sky, because looking horizontal has gotten old. And maybe that trip is a necessary reminder for you to look up at the unpainted skies and begin to paint your masterpiece in life. I can't tell you what it is, I can only tell you the world needs it. I can't tell you that it'll be easy, I can only tell you if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth doing, so I'm not saying quit your job. But I'm saying quit your fears, quit your excuses, and quit giving yourself another day to do something that should have been done yesterday. You're better than that. And every day that you cheat on yourself, you're cheating on giving the world the most excellent you, so that day comes when that student, mentee, child, walks up to you and says, how did you get into the work that you do? You will respond with the dream that you're still dreaming, or the life that you're currently living. I'd rather live in a world where you try than a world where you never even started. Your audience is waiting. Start yesterday. Today is too late.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. What's going on, pets? How we doing this morning? I love it. I am so excited to be with you all here today. I'm back again this time. I don't know if you were here last year. What's up? I am glad to be with you all here this morning. Where am I going to go? I have gold shoes on. I'll explain that a little bit later. But today, what I want to talk with us about on the slides, you'll see the topic for today kind of goes off of that video I did maybe a few years ago called Start Yesterday. And I'm talking about urgent hope. We know the theme for this year is around creating hope in your Rotary year. And I was thinking about, well, what am I going to talk about today? I was thinking about this idea of urgent hope. There's one line in that poem that's actually my favorite line. It says, someone's breakthrough is contingent on your follow-through. As Rotary presidents and people that are dedicated to service above self, it is on our ability to be continued, committed to our follow-through so that a person, a community, a place that doesn't have water can have a breakthrough and truly have their lives transformed. That is how we are starting to at least transform hope. But I'm using urgent as well, because you all just have a year. 1 year to have an impact as president, and then you become district governor, and then you might become area, and then you go all the way up, like you know, so, as you're supposed to. So I'm big in education, so I think it's important that we all have words that we know that I'm using. So to define the word urgent, it says requiring immediate action or attention. And I wanted to use the word urgent because as you only have a year, and we think about some of the injustices across our society, or things why service and our clubs even exist, we have to be urgent. And I thought about what is it in life that requires us or makes us become urgent? And there could be quite a few things. It could be heavy things, like if we lose a loved one, or if a spouse says, I no longer want to be with you, your whole life might be changed around, or if it might be hearing your grandchild or your child crying. You will urgently say, I need to change my plans around, I need to fix this up and figure out what am I going to do because I'm proximate to someone that I love and to pain and something that needs to get done. And so I want to also suggest that urgency is right aligned with proximity to what we think is important. Brian Stevenson talks a lot about proximity and says, we cannot create justice without getting close to places where injustices prevail. He said, we have to get proximate. When you think about your year coming up as a Rotary Club president, my questions that I'm going to have us go through today is thinking about what are we going to be urgent about and what are we going to be proximate to? Is it the cause that you're very passionate about? Is it, hey, I need to get more clubs and more members into my club? But what is it that I need to be proximate to and urgent about to have a fantastic Rotary year? Now, I'll give you all a quick fun example of a time in my life I was urgent and a more serious one. So this is young Jordan in 8th grade. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's back in 8th grade. Y'all probably can't see me too close on here, but I'm wearing a 2XL shirt. Still can't fit it to this day. If you were even closer, I'm a little ashy. I guess I didn't believe in lotion back then. And I was trying to figure out what I was doing with my life. So I was in 7th grade, right? And here's where I found one of my first urgent moments in my life. And this was not that serious, but stay with me. So I was in 7th grade. There was a woman named Tanika. I'm not gonna say her last name, so if you follow me on social media, we're still friends, so we're still cool. I'm gonna say her name was Tanika, right? And I was wearing glasses. I go to class, I sit down in math class. She looks at me, she says, you know, Jordan, you would be a lot cuter without your glasses on. So what does a young, up-and-coming, strapping lad do?
Take them off.
Yes, next day in school, this is G, this is your boy, looking excited, you know, and now, what you all will notice though, is that I'm squinting because I can't see anything. And in all honesty, in my 8th grade year, I ended up failing 8th grade because I sat too far in the back and I couldn't see. I had to start 9th grade in like basic math. Like it was an uphill battle, all because of one comment that someone said that I thought I needed an urgent response to. So much so that I lost vision, that I lost sight, that I lost what I thought was actually important to go to. And this is where we can get lost or caught up as Rotary presidents. You see, one of the things you have to be able to dictate is what is important versus what is urgent. As you come into your Rotary year, some of the questions you might need to explore or understand is everyone's going to say, hey, this is important. But what is urgent? What is going to be aligning to the things that you think are urgent, to the hope that you are trying to instill in the communities that you want to see? You see, for me, I thought it was important to look good. Never went on a date with her. Never got a chance to ever say, you know, that's what me and my girl. It never happened. I should have just deleted it and just never thought of it. That was okay. That was a learning lesson. But then there's those moments in life where we have these cataclysmic moments that define and help us understand why we would even try to be Rotary presidents. By a show of hands, how many of you all are paid to be Rotary president? Exactly. So why would you dedicate practically another full-time job where you might have a family, 5 kids, grandkids, all these type of things to serve? It's somewhat ridiculous. And so we have to be very clear then on what do we want to be urgent about, what do we want to be proximate to so we can have an impact. You see, one of the stories that I'll share that helped me understand what I wanted to be urgent to when I was early in my career working with young people here in San Diego, down in San Diego, was a young student who grew up in a challenging urban neighborhood in San Diego. And he calls me at 2 a.m. And he calls me because there have been people that have walked straight up to their house with guns and have shot directly into the house. He was asleep, and he calls me because he is confused, mad, and is like, hey, can you come over and like check in on me and my family, make sure we're good? I'm like, absolutely, I'll be there right away. There were about 4 or 5 gunshots still in the walls, and he was asleep the entire time. Now, what was ironic about this is the fact that that was his reality. That was one of those moments where I saw something, experienced something, I said, this is the work that I want to dedicate my time to. But what was also ironic was his response to this craziness that was going on in his house while he was asleep. So check this out, you all. I get there. His name is Sal. I get there, and the first thing he says to me is like, you know what, Jordan? I'm like, what, Sal? I'm just glad that they missed the TV. Like, I can still see the TV because I have a show to watch. And I was like, you were asleep. Could have gotten like, you might not be here this morning, but yet you are happy because you still have a TV to watch whatever you want to watch the next day. It was in that moment that I realized, the pain that can exist in some of the communities that we want to serve, some of the injustices that they're facing every single day, but also we are not serving helpless communities. We are not serving communities without character, without hope, without joy, without laughter, although the realities are painful. So is still their smile and their ability to endure and our ability to connect with them. So very briefly, I'm gonna ask you all, what experience developed your urgency towards service? And how do you know that it's important before you're a Rotary leader? Turn to someone that you know for a few minutes, and we'll get going in about 2 or 3 minutes. So turn to someone and answer that question.
What was your experience? You want me to hold it for you?
We take this conversation. So what's your experience? Well, this is the couples right here. So tell me who you are, where you're from.
Co-presidents of Whittier Sunrise, Stephen Fernandez.
And Gracie.
All right. So what led to your commitment to service?
You want to go first? Or?
You could go first.
I think just the commitment to service is sort of growing up privileged and having a lot of great things and knowing that like there's a lot of other people that are very far from that stretch and just trying to close the gap and bring things that I consider normal into people's lives that will really help them and just make them prosper in their lives. But when it comes to like education, just honestly a good community to live in, like he was just speaking about. And I'm seeing our own communities start to fall, and so I want to be a leader that can make sure that doesn't happen where I'm from.
Hi, so I'm on the other side of the spectrum where I grew up in poverty, and I didn't realize I grew up in poverty till I was like in college, and I realized that I was on Section 8, on welfare. I thought that was normal, because I mean everyone around me was kind of either on WIC or some type of governmental service, so it made me realize how bad I wanted to work hard and then give back and go back into my neighborhoods and figure out how to help in these environments, and nip that in the bud.
If we can bring it on back.
Thank you.
These are riveting conversations. So if you can wrap up your last sentence, we will keep on going. All right. So, as we move on, y'all some talkers. I forgot, I can't let Rotarians go. Y'all some talkers. Y'all some talkers. All right, so I'm glad y'all able to connect. I know there's a lot more we can talk about. Let me ask, does anyone want to just stand up and yell out what they said? Any Rotarian interested in just standing up and yelling what they said? Yes, can you stand up and say it loud and proud?
Hi everyone, good morning, Grand Rising. So what I shared was that I grew up in poverty and I didn't know it. Thank you. Hi. What I shared was that I grew up in poverty and I didn't know it until I went to college.
And I was talking to my counselor, and she was crying. She said, "You've gone through so much." We were on section, you know, we had a lot of government assistance. And it was at that moment that I was like, oh, I guess I have some work to do, and go back into my neighborhood and start helping and guiding back. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about is like toy drives during Christmas. We were recipients of toys. But that was one of the things that really changed my life. It was realizing that I came from not the best place, and it was my duty to be the best that I can be so I could go back and make a difference.
Is there another one I would like to share? Yeah, one more.
Good morning, Emerin. Usually when I have this in my hand, I sing, but I shouldn't do that. We have a 32-unit apartment complex that is filled with homeless veterans and their families. And so we work with them. We do barbecue. That's one of the things we're planning. We're going to do it as a cooperative between the Lions Club. Can I say Lions in here? Okay, and our club in Beaumont. So since I am a veteran, I was a non-man. Okay, so there's a passion for it. Okay, well, thank you very much. We didn't get much of that when we came home. Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect. Appreciate it. So, you know, we have one more. Her hand, it looks like she's just like, I have a burden all the way to the corner. She just did it. Okay, I know, I felt it. That's why I was like, I gotta make this moment happen. So I got you. Nah, we can't really hear you.
Oh, that happens.
Oh, you're not good.
A moment is not happening.
Playground guys.
Check.
Okay.
It's not, maybe I'm standing in, oh, here we go. Okay, all right. Well, for me and for the gentleman. Get your hearing aids off. For me and the gentleman at our table, and I'm gonna guess for everybody in this room, it's because we all have such loving, giving hearts. Max.
Absolutely. Okay, today, I'm just gonna take us through 3 questions to consider. We're talking about this idea of just urgent about the things that we need to be proximate to, but first remembering who we are. As a fellow Rotarian from the San Diego Rotary Club, it's always good to remember what our Rotary vision statement is. And on the sides, you'll see kind of the first sign-in sheet where you'll see Paul Harris and some of the original folks that were part of Rotary, where this all started in Evanston, Illinois. And in case you haven't remembered, our Rotary vision statement is together we, 1.4 million, see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. As Rotarians, this is a 3-fold call to action of in ourselves, in our communities, and across the globe, and there's 1.4 million of us to do it. As you begin your Rotary year in the coming months, being reminded of what our call is to do as Rotarians, who we're connected to, and the scale at which we can do it. Now today, I will only take us through 3 questions I just want you all to consider as you get through your year. The 3 questions are, what is it that we see? Who do we see? And what do we think we can give? My background in working with young people oftentimes had me asking young people, how are you doing? There's an exercise, and I'm not gonna do it today, where I would just ask people to sit next to each other, and you would ask someone how they're doing, and for 2 minutes, they have to talk, and you cannot interrupt them. You are fascinated by how much people have to say besides good. You'd be fascinated to see maybe everyone's actually not as good. And in my journey of working with thousands of first-generation low-income students, there's moments where you just pull a student aside because you realize that they're not good. And maybe for you, as you've done a service project, you've realized that some of the individual people that are experiencing some of the challenging situations that have called you to service, you said, you know what? They maybe aren't good. and I need to pull them aside or think about what is it that we can do collectively to address it. Here's a framework that I appreciate that talks about almost our college Rotarians and what we want to think about in bringing change and being urgent about it. This framework, on the next slide, I'm usually a lot more smoother than this, but
Must be the room.
Yeah, it must be, yeah. Okay, here we go. So this talks about a collective well-being to conditions of justice. And I think I really appreciate and wanted to share this framework with you all as presidents because it almost has us think about what is it that we might be starting with? What is it that we might be seeing in some of the spaces where we want to do service? And what is the ultimate goal? We can talk about hope, but what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And this gives us some language or ideas to understand some of the areas we might be working in. First, where there might be severe suffering, a sense of powerlessness, a loss of hope. Being and bringing hope is probably one of the most non-tangible things you can think about. I mean, I used to work in a nonprofit trying to get other people's money, and you're like, I'm not gonna give you a product, but you're gonna be a more decent person, we're gonna have a better world, and they're just like, you know what, I can believe in that. But how do we as Rotarians bring hope to spaces that are hopelessness? You'll see, at the farther end of the scale can be what we might think the communities would look like after our existence or after whatever we're putting in, that the communities are thriving, which is defined as folks having a control of their life. They're able to pursue their dreams collectively, and they have a sense of collective peace. I don't know how many of you times you all might have done a service project, worked along someone, and can easily tell in the spaces you were at, there might not be much peace here. For me, it was some of the spaces that I went into where you would see bullet holes more than you would see paintings, where you would see people nervous to go to sleep, concerned around if I can even wake up in the morning, will my whole family be there? Fundamentally, Rotary would argue that we should have a right to a place where we can just sleep and know that we can have collective peace. And when we think about our communities, the challenge as we think about ourselves as presidents and communities is what are the communities that we are trying to bring peace to locally, around our districts, and around the world. Critical hope demands a committed and active struggle against the evidence in order to change that deadly tides of inequality, group xenophobia, and personal despair. Critical hope has us understand as Rotarians, everything's not perfect, but as Rotarians, we have the capacity to do something about it. The next question I was gonna say, we're seeing what we see and what we can do. We may have seen some dire conditions that made us want to become a Rotarian, wanted us to be volunteering as a president, but now who do we see? I was in, shout out to Hawaii folks, I know some of y'all know. I was in Hawaii a few years ago, and as soon as I got off the plane, I reached out to a Rotary group in there, and they were like, you know what, come with us. They were like, we're gonna all do service together. I was just like, oh snap, this is the Rotary that I didn't even know was possible. They met me at the plane, brought me over to a meeting, comped my meal and everything. I was like, this is great. I'm sure y'all experience this going to other clubs, but they also said, let's do service together. As presidents, how are we able to see people that are from our communities and not in our communities as part of our Rotary clubs so that we can continually do work together? What this challenges us to think about, so I usually talk about inclusion, is what an inclusive club and feeling can look like. As we think about our future of Rotary, the question for us to examine as we think about membership, as we think about where we want to go, as we think about your role even as a president, is how are we able to make sure that we hold inclusivity of all members that are a part and all those members that you can reach. And you'll see on these axes, there's two things that we're looking at. First, the value on uniqueness, whether race, skin, gender, age, ability, socioeconomic status, a value on uniqueness with a sense of high belonging is where we meet that sweet spot of inclusion. If anyone wants any of these slides after, I'll gladly send them over. But you can see the other spaces that can exist within our clubs. From having folks assimilate, to having folks feel excluded, or having folks feel different. If we're going to be urgent about making sure we understand where we're going, the passions that we have, we also have to make sure that we are urgent about making sure we're bringing as many of our fellow Rotarians and future Rotarians with us. That young professionals can see themselves in Rotary as well, and that they can know my uniqueness, whether I might be the age of your son or grandson or great-grandson, can still be in Rotary or Rotaracts or Interacts, and that we can have a high sense of belonging across any of the things that we're doing. The last question is where and what we think we can give. As Rotarians, we always talk about time, talent, treasure. We can very easily give money to things, give time to things, and the last thing that I just going to talk about, we're talking about this urgent ability to make sure that we're proximate, is making sure that we're aware of all the ways that we actually can give. This is the last framework that I'm going to toss up for you all today. Each one of these I could talk about for an hour. I'm just trying to throw some things to you all. This just highlights the different forms of capital that we have outside of just money. And I would hope that you can even use this to encourage some of your members to be mindful of, hey, whether you're a Paul Harris Fellow or you are giving hours, there are different forms of capital that you can give to inspire the folks that need hope, even in some of the darkest moments. A few that I'll highlight. Aspirational capital. Being able to be that person that says, no matter your situation, I'm going to believe in you. I might not be able to build a house, but I can go to someone and say, I see that there's a future that you can have and a path that you might not have ever even imagined. Navigational capital. Rotarians have robust, diverse experience across industry, across expertise. We have the ability, maybe even just to mentor someone and sit down and say, let me show you how to work these ropes, how to go across this, how to work different angles, how to make it in a space that might be challenging. Let me have you jump over some hurdles. The last one that I'll mention, it just be social capital. This room is full of incredible individuals. Sometimes just a connection can bring peace, can bring a job, can bring meaningful employment to someone that can change their trajectory for their entire life. So as we go into this next year, yes, there are clear ways we want to be impactful. Yes, we want to raise money. Yes, we want to build homes. Yes, we want to bring clean water to places, but also be mindful of all the ways that we can bring capital to spaces where there's not peace. I'm reminded of some of my students and some of the most impactful things that I do. I started this text every Monday. I sent it to about 79 students individually. And I told them, when I sent it to them, I was like, look, I don't need you to respond to me. I'm only sending you this just so you can know there's someone that's thinking about you. And if you need to reach out to me, you know that I'm actively and proactively reaching out to you. What Dr. Wood actually calls intrusive care. Letting folks know whether you think of me or not, that I'm mindful of you and I have you in the highest regards and I want you to do well. This is what Rotary challenges us to do. This is what service above self is. Self would easily say, what are my best self-interests? But service say, I will put the needs of someone else before mine and say, what is it that they need and how can I be of service across all the capital that I have? And this brings us to the reminder of what a Rotarian is in case you forgot. As a Rotarian, who is a Rotarian? A Rotarian is a person who digs wells from which they may never drink, vaccinates children from which they might not ever meet, restores eyesight for those they might not ever see, builds houses they might not ever live in, educates children they might not ever know, plants trees that they might not ever sit under, makes crawlers into walkers halfway around the world, and knows that real happiness can only be found by helping others. Our collective call is for us to be mindful of the urgency that we need to operate in the 1 year that we have, how we'll be proximate to the pain of individuals that we may or may not know, and we'll have a broadened reach for the communities in which we want to serve, for which we want to honor, and for which we want to bring along as your presidential year starts to take place. I'll bring you back to the question I asked you all in the beginning, that as you start this year, that you reflect on that experience. Maybe it was a moment, a conversation, a project, a conversation with a fellow Rotarian that deepened your conviction and made you clear on what are the things that I want to be urgent with in my life and why are they actually important. In those moments where you have to deal with some of the smaller battles of maybe people fighting about that's my seat and I've been sitting there for 40 years, or people that are just like, yeah, see, too many of y'all laughed at that, so I don't know how I feel. But in those moments, that we can be reminded of what it is that we want to anchor our year in, we want to anchor our conviction in, and we want to anchor our urgency in. Yes, there will be frustrations. Yes, there will be the people dynamics that we need to work through. But if we can be mindful of the folks at the end of the day that we are trying to impact, that we are trying to take from struggling to thriving and being convicted that our humanities are collectively bound together. And so I'm gonna leave you all with one final thing, because I'm mindful of time. I do improv poetry, so I'm gonna do one final thing. I'm gonna do an improv poem. And then I'm gonna close this out. So can you tell me a word? Any word?
Hope.
Huh? Hope.
Hope.
Hope. Okay, I'll go with that. Can you give me an object?
A chair.
Chair. Can you give me the first sentence of this poem?
Find a chair.
I found a chair?
I hope I find a chair.
I hope I find a chair. Okay. Can you give me the second sentence?
And find somebody to sit on it.
And I hope I find a chair and I hope to find somebody to sit on it. Okay. There we go. All right, let's do this. So hope and chair. I hope I find a chair and I hope I find somebody to sit on it. All right, cool. Just for that sake of it, can you give me a third sentence? I hope I find a chair. I hope to find a chair. Was that it?
Yeah.
I hope to find a chair. I hope to find someone to sit on it. And I hope the chair is sturdy. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. Hope and chair. I hope to find a chair. All right, here we go. So I hope to find a chair, but more importantly, I hope to find someone to sit on it. Actually, matter of fact, I hope the chair is sturdy. You see, the most important part of a chair, besides letting us take a relaxing day after maybe standing or working all day, is that it is the security to let us know that we can sit down and finally rest. You see, the beauty of a chair is that we are guaranteed, as long as it's put together, that we can sit there, don't have to worry about our feet, and can relax, dine on a meal, or talk to someone else. Perhaps this is what the Rodeo call of action is. As Rotarians, we are called to be chairs for society. We are called to be chairs so that people can relax, they can take a load off, they can have hope, they can understand that no matter what, it is on us to be urgent. So my question for us all as we consider being the chairs of society, where will we place ourselves? Whose burden will we be able to hold? But most importantly, how will we make sure that every single day we show up as a Rotary president, we are sturdy, we are reliable, and we are ever so focused on making sure that hope is the only reason why we exist. It's easy to be a plastic chair and to fall over when the wind chucks. But I ask you all today, how will you make sure that your chair is sturdy, unmovable, unshakable, and committed to saying no matter what sense or what hope needs to be rested on me, I will hold the hope, I will maintain the hope, and I will refuse to let any person sit on me and fall, because as Rotarians, we have each other's back, we'll bring hope to the world, and we will be the best damn chairs that we've ever seen in our entire life. Thank y'all very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, only Jordan Harrison can tie that together so that you know you're walking away knowing that they're going to be the sturdy chair.
That's it.
We don't want the wobbly plastic chairs.
What about the gold shoes?
Usually I tie these in more. This year I couldn't really do it with these. They were a gift from a district conference I spoke at in Seattle. They were all leaders, and they were like, we're gonna light up the world, and these actually light up. I'm not selling them, but they are on Amazon for $29.99. Should anybody be interested for the districts? Check your local Amazon store.
Jordan, thank you for allowing this weekend to get started on the right feet.
Okay.
We have you to thank, and on behalf of Southwest PETS, thank you for taking time out of your weekend to get us started off on the right foot. Jordan Harrison, everybody, this goes to you.